Art of Relationship Show is copywritten. No one is to use any portion of the show without express written consent from myself, Greg Dazinski, or the Art of Relationships. Thank you.
Welcome to the Art of Relationship Show. Greg welcomes live calls from listeners in helping with numerous marital and relationship problems. There will be no more tit-for-tat arguments. Greg gets to the root of couples' challenges in a rapid, matter-of-fact format, plus applies compassion and humor. Join in discovering how to improve your relationship and your own life. Listen, laugh, and climax. Greg is a licensed professional counselor in the state of Michigan. To others, he's simply known as Detroit's Love Guru.
Hey everybody, welcome. I am your host, as always, licensed professional counselor. Fully licensed, that is, in the state of Michigan. Have been for a long time. Let me get the mic so people can hear me a lot more. Happy Monday. And you know what? I want to send out my deepest, warmest wishes to everybody in California with all the wildfires going on and the wildlife and animals at stake. So all the firefighters out there, you know what? My best wishes to you to be safe. And you know what? Keep helping other people out there. So send our wishes out there. I know it's very devastating. We are going to talk about today about communication, and not only communication aspects, but looking at, you know what, how communication kills passion, okay? And it might be some ways that people maybe, number one, have not heard of before, but another aspect of it is, you know what, maybe you haven't thought about it in a long time, okay? So we looked at, you know, communication, as we know, that's no big secret, right? The way you communicate with one another, it can kill passion, it can destroy it, it can block that sexual energy between you two. And people are listening to the show, they're saying, Doug, Greg, tell me something I don't know. Looking at it, it's how you communicate, and a lot of people don't realize. And I get, you know, all types of clients, all walks of life in my office, you know, I see on a regular basis. And talk about, Greg, we have communication problems. And I sit there, okay, tell me what it is, how you communicate. Well, you know what? They don't carry on a conversation. It's always simple answers, right? Yes, no, maybe, I don't know. That there's no elaboration on that, okay? So there's a lot of people that realize that, okay, if there's no elaboration on it, some people might get bored. They might, you know what, oh my God, everyone used to think, you know what, all I had to do was look at you and I would get hard, right? I'd get aroused, or I'd get, you know, if women, I'd get wet just, you know what, looking at my man. Now, it's funny, has, you know, maybe looks haven't changed, but the way you communicate with one another has died, right? Or maybe misinterpreted might be a better word, okay? How many people will look at, you know, the way you communicate and you hear simple, you know what, yes, no, answers, and you're like, that's it? There's no empathy, there's no compassion, there's no, like, they're really not into talking to you, okay? And how many people have been in that situation? I know I have. And looking at, you know what do you do about that? How do you recognize? You are one, and I love deep conversations. I can talk about sex, I can talk about communication styles, I can talk about, you know, worldly events. Not everything, of course, you know, I have no knowledge, but I want to learn. I'm going to ask, you know what do you think of this? What do you like about this? What do you hate about this? That type of thing, because I want to know. I'm all about carrying on conversations and looking at, you know what, how can you communicate better? Not only communicate better, understand your as I trip over my tongue, communication styles of your partner, okay? And that's one thing I want you to recognize, that how your partner communicates might be the way they are, okay? If they're not that elaborate, if they're not that expressive in communication, like I said, they might use one-word answers, yes, no, maybe, I don't know. And you want them to elaborate, and I'm all about trying to help people get to the point where, you know what, they're able to maybe elaborate a little bit more. There are, you know, you could be riding in the car with somebody and you talk about whatever, you know, how a bad day at work, or maybe you have talked to a relative that pissed you off or something like that. And you're waiting for feedback. You're waiting for maybe information, that ebb and flow of communication that goes. And your partner just says, uh-huh, yep, okay. And you're like, are you really talking to me? Listen to me. And your partner gets ticked, right? Because your partner is listening to you. That doesn't mean they're not listening. It just means maybe the way they're communicating back to you, that they're not elaborating. They're not, expanding on the conversation. So what happens is you feel like they're not listening, not paying attention, and what happens? An argument ensues, right? Oh my God, you're not listening to me. And then he might say, oh my God, I am too listening. You know what? Get off my butt. I am listening to you. What do you want from me? And that communication style, or the style of you two might clash until you get a better understanding of where each other is coming from. Excuse me. And you look at that, one might view one partner as a lack of caring, a lack of concern about what's going on in your life, and that might not be it at all. They might just not communicate. Is expressive, or expansive might be a better word, on going on and say, oh yeah, what did you think about this happened, you were talking to a relative, they pissed you off, whatever, what did you think they were coming, did you understand maybe where they were coming from? And trying to carry on a conversation like that, and they're just simple, to the point. And a lot of people throughout history blames, I don't know if you want to blame men, but they say men, this is their communication style, okay? And women, you have to get used to it. No, I tell men, you need to expand on this, but I know offhand, personally, a ton of women that also have a hard time communicating because they're being shy. They don't want to say the wrong thing. They don't want to come across as not intelligent, excuse me. So they don't say anything either. And a lot of the old age, theories of, gender differences and theories. And they bring up, the hunter-gatherers. And I even talk about this when I was teaching, human sexuality and lifespan development and stuff for college students. And talking about, men are supposed to be, used to be the hunters, right? And women are the gatherers. The women are afraid, they don't want to get attacked by a cougar or tiger or whatever. So what they do is they talk in groups, right? That's where this theory started from. To scare off the predators, they talk and make noise. Where men, they're the hunters, so they got to be quiet. So the deer, the prey, the bear, whatever they're hunting, doesn't get scared off. So they have to be quiet. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe years and years ago, I get this. I understand that theory. That doesn't mean that applies to 2018. And a lot of people will look at, with communication styles, that, okay, this is the way I am, and I'm not going to change. Well, you're absolutely correct, okay? When I look at that, and yeah, I'm being a smartass when I say that, because if you tell me you're not going to change, that tells me you don't want to change, okay? And with communication styles, can you be more expressive? Can you be more elaborate in your answers and trying to learn from your partner? And this goes from, if they had a great day at work, if they had a crappy day at work, whatever, what? They went to a sporting event. How was the game? It was okay. That was it. What was the best part of it? Well, can you elaborate more? Or... And, I get all types of clients in my office, and everybody assumes, men don't communicate and women are great at communicating. That is so not true, people. So it's looking at, can you look at the communication differences at just that? And stop assuming, and this is where the passion starts dying, okay? Because maybe, like me, I love to communicate. I like to carry on a conversation and not just hear, I don't know, maybe, the shrug of the shoulders. I want more expansive communication, okay? Not all the time, but you know what? A lot of times I like to elaborate on stuff and carry on a conversation. And it's ironic how, people talk about when they first met, when they started dating each other. Oh my God, Greg, we talked for hours nonstop. We never ran out of things to talk about. And I'm like, why do you run out of things to talk about now? Well, we already know everything about each other, right? And do you? Are days different? Are, things that go on? What did you learn differently? There's things happening in the news on a daily basis. Not that, people want to be a downer and all the negative stuff. I mentioned, the horrific, fires and wildfires in California, and looking at, I wonder how they try to put them out. There's ways to carry on a conversation. It doesn't always have to be negative, okay? So, how we communicate with our partners, how we view they communicate with partners, maybe we're just wrong. Maybe, like I said at the beginning, if they say, oh, yes, that's cool, and there's no elaboration on it, that doesn't mean that they're not listening. Maybe they are listening. They're paying attention. It's just the big thing is that you would like them to elaborate more. And what would it take for you to understand that and to say, I'd like you to maybe, expand on that. What are your thoughts about this? Instead of, oh my God, you don't care, you're not listening. Do you understand what that creates? That creates an argument. It creates a huge disconnect. And that passion will, in your relationship, in your sex life, will die. It'll get destroyed because of the arguments, because of the misconceptions that go on, that you're assuming one thing that might not be true. It's just in your communication styles. Now, what happens if, your communication styles, that they clash? Is it possible? Absolutely. Say you are maybe both quiet, and that's okay. You want one-word answers, and you communicate, you understand each other, you feel loved, there's no issues. That's fine. The issue is if when somebody wants to carry on a conversation, wants to be able to talk, remember, like you used to talk years ago. And I brought this up on numerous shows. There's Dr. Aaron's, ARON apostrophe S, 36 questionnaires, or 36 questionnaires, 36 questions, it's a questionnaire, there we go, of topics that you can talk about. Dreams and goals, they change, right? They're not the same when you first met, maybe 5 years later. And it's ironic, and maybe I'm guilty of this too, that in a relationship, you can talk about anything. And I love to ask questions. I can have questions asked about me. And if somebody doesn't ask questions, I feel like they're not into me, they don't care, or maybe they're just shy. You know what? I look at all these aspects. Maybe it's because of what I do or whatever, but I want to be able to have a conversation with one another. And it's very, very difficult when somebody does not communicate. They don't talk about their needs, their wants, maybe what their desires are. And what happens is, maybe your physical attraction to one another doesn't die, but it's actually the emotional aspects of what that passion, gets killed from. That the emotional connection isn't there because you're not communicating like you used to. You're not, enjoying each other's company. You're not being able to talk about daily problems and struggles outside the bills, outside the kids' problems, that type of thing. Are you carrying on a conversation? And do you know, when you talk to somebody, and it could be friends, it could be whatever, and you could talk to them on a daily basis, and it seems like you never run out of things to say. Is this what happens in your relationships? And is this what, and I'm going to tell you, it will kill passion. It'll make you bored with each other. And you know what? When you're bored with each other, it doesn't matter if somebody is, say your lady is smoking hot and dresses up in lingerie all the time and, to make you sexy. You're going to look at that as saying, whatever. And a lot of people start looking at, oh, you're not attracted to me anymore, I don't turn you on anymore. And they usually go after, you don't turn me on anymore because of looks, right? Features, right? Physical features. And a lot of people assume this, that might not be the case. In a lot of cases, it's not the physical aspect. It's how you communicate with each other, okay? Are you understanding each other? Do you enjoy talking to each other? Or are you bored with each other? In the old scenario, right? Oh my God, Greg, I feel like I'm talking to the wall. I ask a question to carry on a conversation, and I get these one-word answers. And you know what? I get bored. I get emotionally sort of disconnected because there's no lively conversations anymore. I don't know what happened. I want to get that back. And sometimes, unfortunately, it's just that person. And that's what I said. Your communication styles can clash. And I'm all about looking at avenues to, learn your partner's communication styles so they don't clash. Number one, if possible, instead of misreading them, that they don't care, they're not listening, maybe you just need to say, you know what, can you sort of, elaborate on it? Can you talk more on that? What are your thoughts on this? You can ask things to carry on a conversation, and it's very, very difficult if your partner looks at you and just says, no, I don't know. And that's why I tell people, a lot of communication aspects where passion, it can die. You know what? The attraction levels can die not because the physical changes, that you're physically not attracted to each other. Like, let's face it, a lot of people assume it's more of the aspect of the communication styles, and it's more about that you're not getting that maybe intellectual conversation going. You're not talking about things like you used to. And yes, I'm guilty too. And maybe we can use social media. How many people are on their phones and not carrying on a conversation? I'm guilty of that too. But I'm one that, if I'm bored, I'm asking you questions, I want you to be able to engage with me. I don't want one-word answers. I want, it could be, okay, do you like fish to eat? That could be, no, I don't. And it just drops off, right? It just dies. And you go, what do you think about this? Can you ask your partner questions that causes someone to elaborate, causes him or her to elaborate on things? What are your thoughts about this? You can't just say a yes or a no. They might say, I don't know. Why, don't you know? Can you think about it and get back to me so we can talk about stuff, right? Simple one-word answers. Do you like this? Do you hate this? They're simple yes and no. Try to ask questions that are involving your partner that can bring stuff out of them, okay? What their thoughts are, what their feelings on stuff are, versus looking at simple yes or no answers. But if it comes to a part of, that they don't communicate and you want someone that communicates and that's important to you, then you need to look at maybe we're just not clicking and we're not compatible in that aspect, because a lot of times when the communication drops off, the passion dies in the relationship. And a lot of people thought, right, let's face it, it's, you're not attracted to me anymore, that I don't turn you on anymore. And it's ironic where a lot of, women I get that come in complaining they're not getting enough passion or sex or romance, that, talking to their partner, it's like, Greg, man, I carry on a conversation and it goes nowhere. It just dead ends, that we don't communicate like we used to. Like I said, we used to talk for hours and hours with no problem, not running out of things to say. We could talk about if we went to college, what our favorite classes were, what all this stuff were, and maybe how things have changed. Hey, Zisan, hello. Welcome to the Art of Relationship show. Nice of you, and Godly Child, thanks for chiming in. So you can look at, that you have differences in communication styles. That's not the issue. The issue is trying to understand those styles. But when it comes down to it, if you have two totally different communication styles, right? Say one loves to be more blunt, more in your face, and the other one wants more compassion, more empathy in the way they're talked to, okay? And I had a couple, this Saturday working on this aspect and talking about it and bring awareness about that. And that's fine. That can be worked on. But if you talk about the level of communication, how you communicate, expressing your communication styles, and expanding on talking more, you know what? That gets to be a big deal, because one person, typically the one that likes to maybe have intellectual conversations or discussions, they're going to get bored, and it's going to come from the point where not only you're going to get bored in a relationship, and it's going to kill your passion and your sexual appetite for one another, okay? Because you might come, I like to talk more, and then the other person that doesn't talk that much, it's going to feel like they're not good enough, they're not heard, they're, you know, whatever. And it's going to come back, and it's that communication difference is going to build resentment. And a lot of people, you know what, it's the way, you know what, the way you communicate with one another can keep the passion and the fire embers, you know, just churning, okay? Godly child, you mentioned some people aren't great with words. I completely agree with that. You know what? I agree with that big time. And this could be for women, for men. Everybody assumes, right? It's men that aren't good with words, and women are great communicators. I can tell you that, you know what, over how many years I've been doing this and talking to people, I can tell you a ton of people that, you know, there's some women out there that are very, very poor communicators, talking about emotional levels. I'm not talking about worldly issues, intellectual aspects. I'm talking about emotional levels, where there's a lot of guys out there that are great communicators, and they can express themselves, and they're great listeners, and they want to know what their partners feel, and they want their partners to express on them, and their partners just don't. So I try to help people try to engage on increasing maybe their vocabulary. If you said, you know, golly child, some people aren't great with words, absolutely. But it comes to a point where, you know what, you want a lively conversation, and can your partner get better and improve on their communication styles and what works, or what would work for you, just like sexual styles, right? Can you work and evolve together on creating an understanding of your communication styles and what you need, and a better understanding of where you're coming from, instead of, you know what, one word answers doesn't necessarily mean your partner doesn't care about you. It's just maybe that's what they said. Could you know what, I'd love you to talk more, express about it, tell me what your thoughts are more about that, okay? I always say it, you know, say it how you're thinking, even if it comes out wrong. And a lot of times, you know, we could do this, and, you know, perceptions and communication, like you have somebody that's blunt and to the point, that might be taken as being very rude and very disrespectful to their partner, instead of, you know what, I want to help that partner look at, you know what, that's maybe how they talk, and I want you to be able to take things as maybe not as, you know what, constructive criticism or criticism towards you, or take things to heart so much that you can just, that's just them, that's how they talk. Why am I taking this so personally? So I try to work with couples on that aspect, trying to increase, you know, the self-worth and value of the one person, but also maybe at the same time, instead of being so blunt, can you soften your approach a little bit, okay? Godly child, correction, you know, correction, talking about things will come naturally when it comes to relationship conversations. Some people aren't great with words. Sometimes it might not be what words to say, but how to put them into the right wording. I agree. And a lot of this, and I touched on this a little bit, godly child, is as far as voice tones too, right? There's a difference, you know, between, you know what, I really care about what you had to say. Oh my God, I care about what you say. Will you just say it? You know what? There's a huge difference in the voice tone. So I work with couples on only voice tone, their presentation, and how they say certain words. And I don't want everybody doesn't have to use fancy words. I swear once in a while too when I talk, even with clients. I'm very down to earth and very real and genuine. So I want people not to be a walking encyclopedia, if you will, or a walking dictionary with words. I want them to use their own words and what they're comfortable using. I just want them to be, you know, expand on them. So we could, you know, expand on their tonality, okay? The tone they use when speaking. Maybe certain words that you get mixed up with, that's okay. But looking at, oh my God, I screwed up. I meant this instead of that. So a lot of communication styles, it's how we, can we, instead of take things so personal, can we look, is this what you meant, right? And how many people get so defensive? Oh my God, you're an ass, you're this, you're that. And it turns into a situation of a back and forth and all this other aspects. Hey, Maria, hey, welcome. No, I appreciate you and best wishes to you as well. Thanks for chiming in, Maria. I appreciate it. So looking at these aspects, are you able to communicate in, the style and the tonation that your partner needs or, is receptive to without, sugarcoating everything? I'm not about that. But, and also look at how they communicate. Does it really mean they don't care what you're saying? Ask. No, where'd you get that idea? I don't care. I just said, yeah. I just said, okay, I was listening, right? So maybe they can expand on that more and get communication styles, jiving together where you have a better understanding of one another and it doesn't clash. Now, if you have one person that is a talker and loves to discuss things on a daily basis and you have somebody that, doesn't like to discuss much of anything. They don't want to discuss issues in a relationship. They don't want to discuss world events or what they feel or what their thoughts are on other things. Excuse me. It's going to be very difficult. And that's usually when I say, the passion and the sexual attraction will, get degraded and the passion will die between you. And it's not the physical. It's, the intellectual. It's the communication styles that can kill passion. I don't want it to happen, but it's ironic, how communication styles, they change since when we first started dating to maybe you've been married 5 years, 10 years, and what's going on with each other. So when people come into me with communication styles that, or they have communication issues, there we go. I look at you both can say, screw you, screw you. You both understand each other, right? That you're both mad at each other, right? Now, apparently you communicate fine. Now it's looking at what do you need to understand each other and not take things for granted, number one, but not take things out of context and so personal where you can take a stand and say, is this what you meant? I thought that was rude versus, oh my God, you're such a, you understand? It goes to name calling, it goes to whatever. And that resentment builds and your passion dies not because of physical attraction. The passion dies and the sexual aspects in your relationship die because how you communicate with one another or how you don't communicate with each other. It's the emotional aspects of the relationship that kill the passion and the desire. And a lot of people assume, oh, you're not attracted to me anymore, and it's physical. No, it might be emotional. It might be intellectual, those type of aspects, okay? So if one person says, oh my God, you look great, you look nice. Could you elaborate more and say, you look so sexy, oh my God, you look like a movie star, you look like a model. Can you elaborate instead of just saying, oh, you look nice, you look handsome? Are you able to elaborate on your compliments? Maybe when we elaborate it more, people are going to be more apt to get it more, that you actually mean it instead of, oh, you look nice, instead of how many people, oh, you're just saying that because you're my wife. You're just saying that because you're my boyfriend, my husband. Like you have to. No, this is what I mean. So when you elaborate on compliments, believe it or not, they come across as more legit, more real, absolutely, more genuine. And those simple things, by elaborating your compliments, can trigger the passion and the romance in your relationship, right? So a lot of people look at, I could have music playing and candles all lit and rose petals all over the place. Oh my God, I do all this, it's romantic, and my partner doesn't want to have sex with me. They're not in the mood. And then all of a sudden, oh yeah, you're not in the mood because you're not attracted to me. It goes right towards the physical aspects. It's ironic. Instead of looking at the emotional aspects and say, what would happen if your partner came to you and said, I'm emotionally bored being with you? what would you do? Would you flip out? Would you, you know what? Would you throw a hissy fit? Would you start name calling and, attacking your partner for bringing that up? You know what? I'm emotionally sort of not attracted to you. I'm emotionally dead, bored with you about our relationship. Could you say, you know what? Oh my God, that sucks, whatever. What do you think I can do, or what do you think we can do to, sort of jazz it up a little bit and to make it more lively so you don't feel so, emotionally bored in our relationship? There we go. But a lot of people get, their communication styles is more, we take things to heart. It's not easy, right? Our insecurities come out when someone says, I'm bored with you sexually, or I'm bored with you emotionally. You don't talk like I would like you to talk, like we used to talk. I hear this on a daily basis, people. And it's, looking at maybe, the lingerie, the candles, the music might not do it. It's great gestures, but the real issue is not doing it. It's because the lack of communication between you two and the lack of emotional sharing and really trying to liven up what goes on with you guys, okay? And not only the communication aspect can be bored and kill the passion, are you doing the same routine? You know what? Oh, we talk about, yep, I know when he walks through the door, he's going to talk about what a crappy day he had, what a crappy weather day it is outside. Did the kids do the homework? Did the bills get paid? You have the routine conversations going on. That's where I tell people, you know what, you can use social media. What did you come across? Did you, come across, maybe a meme on, picture meme on Facebook or other social media that was funny? Oh my God, can you imagine if I did this to you? What would you like it? Would you reaction? There's a bunch of stuff that you can communicate on and touch base on and joke about and be playful when you communicate, okay? But for some reason, they die off, right? When a lot of people, and I'm guilty of this too, you go on your phone all the time and you're not communicating with each other. Can you use your phones when you come across a post, Instagram post, Facebook post, whatever? Can you use it to expand and engage a conversation? Oh my God, look at this. This is so funny. Can you imagine if I did this to you? What would your response be? You know what? And you can carry on a conversation and you can make your communication styles more lively, more engaging, like you're talking about when you first started dating. A lot of people, right? I get this. Oh my God, we know everything about each other now. There's nothing else to talk about. So does that mean you get out of that relationship? Or do you look for avenues that can trigger conversation? You know what? There's things all over the place. It's how you use them to engage communication and what that communication means to your partner and also your partner's communication to you. So, okay, use this. So it doesn't matter. Your partner might use one-word, two-word answers. It doesn't mean they're not listening. But you know what? Communicate with them that you'd like them to expand on it, okay? So if it looks at the situation to where it doesn't and you're bored and nothing changes with that, it's going to be very, very difficult to have a lively, passionate sex life or a lively, passionate relationship in general if the communication styles don't get close to the same page, number one, or that it's not more engaging, okay? Godly child, before I go, you mentioned, no, sometimes how we think things may sound wrong to us, but once it comes out, it's not that bad, if that makes sense. It makes perfect sense. And sometimes we're so worried about, how we communicate that we shut down our communication styles or our communication completely because our partner's gonna, let's face it, they're gonna get mad. They're gonna attack back. They're not gonna like what I say, or they don't care what I have to say and they're not listening. Does that sound familiar? And that's one thing, you know what? How can I talk so you want to listen? And you know what? That I can engage with you and have a conversation and talk about anything. And your partner might come up and say, well, talk to me about something interesting. Oh my God, screw you. You know what? The argument, the way you communicate starts bashing and the judgments and all that come up. And it kills communication even further and it kills the passion. If your partner said, you know what, talk to me about something that might be interesting, okay? What subjects do you find interesting, man? Why don't you talk about, bring up stuff? It's both ways. It's both of you trying to engage in what you can do to liven up the communication status in your relationship, but also that to understand each other's communication styles and what's working, what's not working, instead of all these misunderstandings where it shuts down, you know, the passion and communication styles even further, okay? So check out my website, theartofrelationships.org, people. You can catch the show, The Art of Relationships show, Monday through Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time. Peace to everybody out there. And again, my deepest wishes to those out in California with the wildfires. You know what? My thoughts, prayers, and my deep wishes are with you for, you know what, safety out there, okay? Be kind to everybody, people.